Hello, Sarah of SEK Handmade here, and today I'm excited to share with you how to crochet a flat circle. Friends, this is such a fun technique and works on a really simple principle and pattern. And once you get the hang of it, you're going to be able to crochet everything from a teeny tiny coaster to a placemat, to a big centerpiece, to even an entire circular rug. It really is so much fun. I can't wait to show you. Let's go. All right, so my first bud coaster is worked with this technique of making a flat circle at the center of it and then adding this beautiful floral edging to it. This can be worked, uh, it works with a pattern, uh, like A, B sort of pattern. Slowly growing the circles bigger and bigger. So you can make anything once you know the pattern from a coaster or an earring if you want to go even tinier, all the way to a placemat or a rug if you really want to get bold. And it's just a lot of fun and just some fun knowledge to know. So I started my circle already. And if you're playing around, you can simply crochet a number of stitches into a magic ring or a small set of chains that you've joined in the center. You're just going to start in a circle. And I will link in the description below to videos about how to make a magic ring if you want to give that a try. I have done some double crochets. Maybe we should count them. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Very random. 11 double crochets here. So you're going to make however many you want, however many you think makes a nice circle. Because remember, for this one, we're just playing around with what does it take to make a flat circle. So we're learning the pattern of this technique. If you want specific numbers, I will also link some of my patterns below that use this technique so that you can follow those specifically if you want to. So I use double crochets, so I'm going to continue with double crochets. I'm going to chain 2. I do not count my chains in my stitches. That's a personal preference. If you want to count your chains as a stitch, then that is totally up to you. So for your second time around your circle, you are going to place 2 stitches in each stitch. So I have 11 stitches. I'm going to place 2 double crochets in each of my 11 double crochets. So 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets. Those were both in my first stitch. In my next stitch, I'm going to place 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets. And I'm just going to keep doing that all the way around in every single stitch. 2 double crochets in each stitch. Last stitch, 2 double crochets in that guy too. All right, so now I have worked 2 double crochets in every single stitch of my first round. And I'm going to join into the first stitch with a slip stitch. If your chain counted as a stitch, then you need to join into your chain. Now I am ready for round 3. I'm going to chain 2, and the pattern for this round is going to be, remember, I'm not counting my chain, so I'm going to go ahead and work in my first stitch here. I'm going to place 1 double crochet in the first stitch and 2 double crochets in the next stitch. So 1 double crochet in the first stitch, 2 double crochets in the next stitch. I'm going to do that again. 1 double crochet in the first stitch, 2 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2. Now, I'm going to tell you something, and if you find this confusing, forget it and just do what I said before. But when I'm making these, I count to 3 because that's 3 stitches, right? 1 stitch and then 2 stitches in the next stitch. That's 3. So I count 1, then I place 2 stitches, 2, 3. And then I repeat that pattern again. I place 1 stitch in the next one, and then in my next stitch, I place 2, 3. If that is confusing to you, everybody's brain learns differently, right? So if that technique there confuses you, then you just need to remember you're going to place 1 stitch in the first stitch, 2 stitches in the next stitch, and that's your repeat. But let me tell you one of the reasons why I like the counting method that I do. So 1, 2, 3, because I'm on my 3rd row and it takes 3 stitches to make that repeat. And that pattern goes on. You'll see in my 4th row, there are 4 stitches in the repeat. In my 5th row, there are 5 stitches in the repeat. If I make it to 10 rows, which I don't think I will in this video, there are 10 stitches in the repeat. It just continues on and on and on. And it helps me remember, I'm on my 3rd row, there are 3 stitches. 1 in the first, and then 2 and 3 in the next. All right, so if you do the pattern right, your pattern should end with the correct at the end of the pattern. So 1 stitch in the first stitch, 2 stitches in the last stitch. And then again, you're going to join to either your chain or your slip stitch, depending on how you're using them, right? Now, I do want to point out, sometimes this can curl a little bit. Don't stress out about that for 2 reasons. 1, blocking can do amazing things depending on the type of yarn you're using, just adding a little steam to this, or sometimes when you add the basket edging around it, or you add a border around it, that can all really help to flatten it out. So don't panic about that. If you're finding it's curling a lot and you can't get it to lay flat, even with like a little love and blocking, watch your tension. If your stitches are too tight, they're going to tend to kind of curl in on themselves, but a little bit of curling is not that big a deal. All right, we have done 1, 2, 3 rows, and we're ready for row 4. The pattern continues the same. You're going to place, it's going to be 4 stitches this time. So you're going to place 1 stitch in the first stitch, 1 stitch, in the second stitch, and then 2 stitches in the third stitch. And that's your pattern. So let's do it again. 1 stitch in the first, 1 stitch in the next, 2 stitches in the next one. And then you repeat that pattern. Oh, let me try that again. You're going to repeat that pattern around. So, in keeping with what I was talking about the last row, the repeat is worked over 3 stitches, but it contains 4 stitches because you're putting 2 in that last one, right? So I would count 1, 2, and then I'm going to place 3 and 4 in my third stitch here. 3, 4. All right, so row 4 is all done. Row 5 is going to be worked in the same way. This time you're going to make 1 stitch. You're just extending the pattern. In row 3, you did a stitch and then 2 stitches. 1, 2, 1, 2. In row 4, you did 1 stitch, 1 stitch, 2 stitches. You're just going to add another singular stitch to that. So this time we're going to do 1 stitch, 1 stitch, 1 stitch. So 3 singular stitches, and then in the next one you're going to place 2 stitches. So again, 1 stitch in the first one, 1 stitch in the next one, 1 stitch in the next one, and then 2 stitches is the last part of the repeat. And you just keep repeating that around. So again, if you're going back to my funky way of counting, it's 1, 2, 3, and then 4 and 5 will be placed in the same stitch. 4, 5. And you can just keep repeating that pattern around and around, making your circle bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until you get the size that you want. And that is how you crochet a flat circle. Friends, I know with some practice, you are going to have fun going completely crazy with this really just fun technique. I hope that this video has helped you to grow confidently in your craft. That is always, always my goal. There are lots of links in the description to patterns that use this technique, as well as other tutorials that might be helpful when getting started with this, or that might grow your skills even further. I would love it if you would like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that YouTube will let you know every time I release a new video. There's also links in the descriptions to all of my other social media if you'd like to follow along there, and a place to sign up for my newsletter so you don't miss out on anything SEK Handmade related. Thank you so much for joining me today, and happy crafting!